Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the 2024 NASCAR Draft. We will be drafting the entire chartered field for the NASCAR Cup Series using all available full-time drivers on the roster. What does that mean? It means guys like Eric Almirola running part-time? Kevin Harvick retired? And when I say full-time guys available, that also could mean part-time guys that haven't been able to find full-time rides in other series or situations like that where they could be dealing with sponsorship issues or whatever the issue may be, but the driver talent is what they're drafting. So let's set up the stipulations. What are they drafting? So you'll see on the chart here to my... that way. So you'll see the chart to my left? Yeah, my left. You're right. Whatever. We all know what we're saying. But you see the chart. There is the list. All of those cars are in order of current owner points. So you see the Hendrick 5, the Joe Gibbs 19, the Hendrick 9, the Joe Gibbs 11, the 23-11-45, so on and so forth. That will be the order they get to draft in. And then the other stipulation of this will be the criteria. We are drafting for 3 years. So we are under the impression that everyone you draft is how well you can do in the next 3 years, which means there will be guys that you draft, like Martin Truex Jr. He may only be good for 1 year. However, he's really good for that 1 year, and then you have to go fill that role with something else. And there's other guys that might be not so great right now, but we're saying, well, maybe not this year, but next year and the year after, their potential goes higher. So there's those types of risks that you get to take in the draft as well. And also factoring in, Hendrick is still a team. So if Hendrick has a bunch of veterans, don't be surprised if they pick a developmental guy on one of their later picks to try and make sure they have a decent filled roster to help them through the next chunk of years. They want to have that young potential, you know, stuff like that. So anyway, without further ado, let's get right into it. So with the first pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Hendrick 5 selects... Oh, wait a minute. Let's put a jingle to this. With the first pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Hendrick 5 selects Kyle Larson. Why would they select Kyle Larson, you might ask? So Kyle Larson, it's an easy choice. He wins in everything. He wins, he's fast, everything he drives. It doesn't matter. He jumps in a late model, wins. Jumps in a sprint car, wins. He's in an Indy car. I don't know what he's going to do. He's in a freaking Indy car this year. I mean, it's an easy choice. You've got him for another, I mean... He's got plenty of age, and you know, he's got the age if you needed it. We're only drafting for 3 years, but he is at the prime of his career. Easy choice for the number 5 to pick Kyle Larson. I think that everyone would at least put him top 5 on about every list. All right, let's get on to pick number 2. The Joe Gibbs 19 is on the clock, and the pick is in. With the second pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the 19 team selects Denny Hamlin. Now, Denny Hamlin's an easy choice. You can get 3 years. He is currently on one of the hottest streaks of his career since getting paired with Chris Gabehart. Now, again, crew chiefs are not factored into this, but it's just showing he's winning with no matter who his crew chief is. He's always fast. He's very quick in any generation of car, any type of track. He's won on pretty much all of them. So that is what's going to put Denny Hamlin up there on top of the 50 career wins that he already has. He's still winning is another big factor in this. That'll put the Hendrick number 9 on the clock, and the pick is in. With the third pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the number 9 team selects Chase Elliott. Now, this is probably a fitting spot because he's already in the 9 car, so it obviously looks that way. That is actually not what factored into this. When looking at the list of all the drivers and potential drivers and things of that nature, he is the only one that I believe is under 30 still, or I can't remember if Kyle Larson... I don't think Kyle Larson's under 30, but he's the only one I believe under 30 with a championship. I believe Ryan Blaney is he 30 now or is he 29? I can't remember. Either way, it's either him or Blaney, but he's the only one with 20 wins and a championship. I believe he's at 20. He's either 19 or 20, but he's up there. He's got more wins than Ryan Blaney. He also has wins on every type of track. Road course, short track, super speedway, mile and a half, concrete oval like Dover, concrete oval like Nashville. You name it. Phoenix, intermediate, like every type of track he's found a way to win on one way, shape, or another. So that's what's going to put him at number 3. The well-roundedness, pair him with the right crew chief, I think you could see him do even better than he is currently this year. But anyway, let's go ahead and move it on. The Joe Gibbs number 11 is on the clock. And by the way, the pick is in. With the 4th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the number 11 team selects Ryan Blaney. So this is probably a fairly easy choice. Defending champion, has shown to be the lead Penske car all of this year and a good chunk of last year. And I think at the end of the day, when you're looking at talent, age, again, Ryan Blaney, very similar to Chase Elliott, has won on almost every type of racetrack. He's won on the short tracks. He's won on the super speedways. He's won on a road course. So the well-roundedness is there with that, along with, of course, like I said, the resume to go with it, along with the championship. That'll put the number 45 car on the clock. And by the way, their pick is in. With the 5th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the 45 team selects Tyler Reddick. Now, Tyler Reddick, again, like some of the other guys, have fit their number. I promise this is not going to stay a trend from probably the rest of the list almost. But Tyler Reddick, it's very easy. He's won on multiple types of tracks. He has shown great potential in those on other tracks. So he's won at road courses. He's won on 1.5 miles. He hasn't won on short tracks, but we see the speed. If they can ever get their pit crew right, he should have 5 to 6 wins a year. Problem is, they haven't been able to do that thus far. However, that's the potential that the driver has shown, and the team has not necessarily helped him out around that. So that's why it'll get Tyler Reddick drafted at number 5. With after that, the number 24 team is on the clock. And by the way, the pick is in. With the 6th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the number 24 team selects Joey Logano. Now, Joey Logano kind of seems like a weird fit to the 24, but at the end of the day, it really does make sense. He drives hard in everything he can be in. And yes, I think the team is struggling right now, but I don't think a lot of that has to do specifically with Joey Logano. He literally won a championship in the first year of this next-gen car. He's won in multiple variations of cars, multiple teams. He's won in everything, everywhere, for the most part. And the biggest thing is, you know he's going to do everything he can to get the job done. Now, you already have Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson, who are pretty young, and Joey Logano's a little bit older, started in 2009. These other guys started in 14 and 16, so he's got about 5 years on him, but a good gap of the age range would also help for Hendrick Motorsports, so that'll put their 3rd driver at Joey Logano. 7th pick in the NFL Draft is the 12 car, and the pick is in. With the 7th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the number 12 team selects Kyle Busch. So, to me, this is probably a no-brainer for them. Penske, this will be their first pick of the entire draft, and picking a driver as solid as Kyle Busch, information-wise, solid on every track, high expectations, he's not going to allow you to lose. Will he get along with all the Penske way? Maybe not. However, at the end of the day, if you're Penske, your expectation is winning. This guy knows how to do it. He's the winningest driver, active Cup driver on the series, and has been for a while. And that's an easy call, I think. Multi-time champion, all that kind of stuff. That's what's going to put Kyle Busch at pick number 7. Pick number 8, the 45 is on the clock, and the pick is in. With the 8th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the number 54 team selects William Byron. Now, William Byron is probably a good selection. Again, won on multiple types of tracks. We've seen him win on short tracks, super speedways. We've seen him win on intermediates. So we've seen a decent chunk of things that William Byron has been able to win on. A lot of them have been strategy. He typically does not lead a ton of laps. Last year, he was like the 6th or 7th guy in led laps, but he had the most wins. So he has found a way to get the wins when they count. The raw speed is not what we've seen. So does that mean that it's all crew chief? No. The driver still has to execute, and he has done a good job of executing. However, he hasn't shown the raw speed that some of the guys up ahead of him have shown. And now we move on to the Hendrick 48, who is on the clock, and the pick is in. With the 9th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the 48 team selects Martin Truex Jr. Now, this to me was a good pick for Hendrick Motorsports, strictly because of the age factor. All the other guys still have a good chunk of lifespan left. There's young guys. There's really no need to go out and try to pick a real high-end rookie, because you would be sitting on him for a while anyway, and over the course of 3 years, I think Hendrick is in a win-now mode. The sponsor is safe with Ally. They'll transfer to whatever driver you put in the car, so you don't have to worry about drafting a new one next year if Martin decides to hang him up. And Martin is still a very, very good race car driver. So for them, they are picking for the short term, not necessarily the long term, but they're looking at this year saying, hey, all our cars are in the top 9. Let's go win a championship. Let's try to sweep the top 4. And so the pick of Martin Truex Jr. is a good fit for them. That'll put the Trackhouse number 1 on the clock, and the pick is in. With the 10th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the number 1 team selects Christopher Bell. Now, Christopher Bell is a guy that we have seen flashes. He can win, and he can pop off wins 3 at a time. All of a sudden, you're staring like, what happened? How did he do that? And then there's days like this year where he wins, looks really, really good. We're thinking the speed is there, and he's outside the playoffs. I mean, he has the win, so he's locked in, but he's outside the top 17 in points. He has suddenly struggled out of nowhere, and that is concerning because the speed is there, but we know that's not the crew chief or the team. Like, some of the mistakes that are made, he gets caught up in some wrecks. Those are not his fault, but the team is such a roller coaster. So it is a lot of high potential. We have the winning resume. He's won on multiple types of tracks. But there is also that question mark of the consistency factor. But still a very high pick. He has been top 4 in points for the last 2 years, so that does help that he's made the round of 4 twice. But he hasn't done well since every time he got into that round of 4. So still a solid pick for Trackhouse, especially for a team leader, considering this was their first draft pick. With the 11th pick, the number 8 team is on the clock, and their pick is in. With the 11th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the number 8 team selects Ross Chastain. So, I mean, if you're talking Richard Childress Racing and a guy that really fits what they like to do and kind of the history of their team, look no further than Ross Chastain. He will bump, he will nudge, he will do whatever it takes to win. He will floor it and pin it against the wall if that's what it takes. But he'll do what it takes to win, and he will put everything on the table to do so. That fits Richard Childress Racing well. Them picking later in the draft like this, getting a multi-time winner, and getting a guy that really is relentless, they're going to need that. They haven't shown the raw speed necessarily to hold on in some of those races, and so having a guy that will just elbows up sometimes and knock people out of the way and do what it takes to get that win, that is what Richard Childress is going to want, and it's a great option for the 11th pick. That'll put the 14 car on the clock, and their pick is in. With the 12th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the number 14 team selects Chris Buescher. Now, Chris Buescher is a 5-time Cup winner, I believe, by now. I think it's 5. But he got 3 wins last year. He really has shown a good ability to get what the car will give him. And with Stewart-Haas really in the process of a rebuild, I mean, picking 12th is at their best, and their next pick isn't until outside the top 20, I believe, in 20th. So they have one early pick, and then they have a lot of room in the middle where they're not going to have another pick. So to pick a very solid winning driver is what they're going to want. They're not necessarily going to search for the high ceiling of, top tier. Although Chris Buescher, I think, has the potential to be a Cup champion. But I don't think they're looking at Kyle Larson levels of upside. But they are looking at very solid performance, especially for your team leader at pick number 12. With the 13th pick, the 22 is on the clock, and their pick is in. With the 13th pick of the NASCAR draft of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the 22 team selects Ty Gibbs. Now, Ty Gibbs, obviously, outside of the Joe Gibbs part of things, is going to be a good selection. One, very high upside. He does have the Kyle Larson upside. He has the upside to win 6 to 10 races a year on a really good year. Kyle Larson upside is probably the highest upside you can have, so I don't want to put him quite there because winning sprint car races is a whole nother level. But that put Ty Gibbs as a young, developmental driver who's already showing good consistency where he is, and so we know he's basically here and has a lot of up, and we don't think he can go much further down. So they already have their first pick with Kyle Busch, but he's a little bit on the older side, so getting a real young guy like Ty Gibbs in there, probably a really good option, especially for someone like him who will soak up that knowledge that Kyle Busch has. And that will move on to the, let's see, I believe that's the 14th pick, which is the 17 car. And their pick is in, by the way. With the 14th pick of the 2020... Oh, sorry, I messed up. With the 14th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the 17 car selects Brad Keselowski. Now, Brad Keselowski, obviously he's a team owner, so there's part of it there, but that's actually not what factored me into this. What factored me into this was he is a former champion. He has shown great consistency. There has been a significant drop-off in performance for Brad over the last few years, so that factored into him not going earlier in the draft. But when you're talking about a cornerstone, a guy to build your team on, this is RFK's first pick. You need information and knowledge. Look no further. This is a guy that's going to have that for you. So picking Brad Keselowski has a lot more to do with the knowledge and the team-building aspect, not necessarily being good this year, but having a fast batch of cars for next year and the year after. It's kind of a, we're looking at winning tomorrow, not necessarily today. So now we're going to move on to pick 15, which is held by 2311 Racing's number 23, and their pick is in. With the 15th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the 23 team selects Carson Hocevar. So Carson Hocevar is a very high upside, but very question mark results kind of guy so far. We have seen big time flashes of speed, things that we think, holy smokes, this guy could really do some good things. So are they picking for this year? No. The 23 team, by picking Carson, is looking at next year and the year after. Very high potential guy, but they are putting a lot of risk in it because that wouldn't be necessarily a guarantee to be good this year. But they do have Tyler Reddick already as their cornerstone guy, so they do have a little bit more flexibility to take a chance on a guy like Carson, even though he's a little bit less of a chance than, say, some other guys, because he has shown that flash of speed that we haven't seen necessarily out of a lot of other young guys. So it is a risk, but it is a calculated risk with some very high upside. That'll move us on to pick 16, and the pick is in. With the 16th pick in the 2024 NASCAR Draft, RFK's number 6 selects Alex Bowman. So they pick Alex Bowman. That's going to be a solid addition to the team to go with Brad Keselowski, with Brad being as old as he is, not making it sound like he's ancient, but having a guy that's a little bit younger but still very, very solid. Alex has not won on all types of tracks. He's been a little bit less on the high winning side, but he does really run well points-wise. He typically finds himself in the top 8 in points. He really has transitioned in the playoffs. You'll see him very rarely get out in the round of 16, and sometimes he does make it to the round of 8, but typically he hasn't gotten to the round of 4. So very good points racer, very good result guy, but not a high ceiling win type guy. But especially for RFK, needing the points where they're at right now, as you can see, bubble playoff, that's going to help move them up. So they're looking at very solid results, trying to be better, but not necessarily shooting for the moon right away. And Alex Bowman's a good fit for that. The 17th pick in the NASCAR Draft is in. With the 17th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the number 20 team selects A.J. Allmendinger. Now, A.J. Allmendinger, to me, is a perfect final pick for Joe Gibbs Racing. They have, if you look at their other draft picks in this lineup, they have age on their side, they have experience on their side, they have all these things on their side. Not necessarily a road course ace. I mean, they've got guys that have won on road courses, but not an ace. And A.J. Allmendinger is a good driver on a lot of tracks. He had a top 12 at Dover. He was very fast at Dover. He's shown speed at Martinsville. He's been good on the ovals. He's not necessarily like your typical road course ringer. He's very good on road courses, and he can still race very well on the ovals, but his strongest suit is the road courses. So you're adding a guy that has high playoff potential as far as snagging a win, and even on the ovals has the opportunity to score good points to still make it if he doesn't snag that win. Now, that being said, all 3 of his wins are on road courses, but he has won a lot in the Xfinity Series on the ovals. So a good, solid driver, I say veteran, an older driver that knows how to finish races and not trash all the cars. So that's going to put A.J. Allmendinger at that 17th pick. With that, the 18th pick is on the clock, and also the pick is in. With the 18th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Trackhouse 99 team selects Eric Jones. Now, Eric Jones, to me, is a no-brainer for them. That's a good match to Christopher Bell, literally just a year or so older. They drove for a lot of the same teams, but also Eric Jones is a winner. He has won in multiple teams. He won in the Petty 43, which hadn't been done since 2014 on a rain delay, by the way. He won the old-fashioned way, and so Eric Jones is a winner, and I think that's a good selection for Trackhouse. That would be a good pair-up to Christopher Bell, and I do think Eric Jones might have the higher potential. We just haven't necessarily seen it on the win total and things like that, but I think very solid, and that would definitely move that 99 from the 18th spot and get them up into that playoff contention on the points end of things. That moves us on to pick 21, and the pick is in. With the 21st pick in the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Penske number 2 team selects Noah Gragson. Now, Noah Gragson, as obviously you're probably thinking, wow, why is he being picked that high up? Because he doesn't run that high up right now. Well, Noah Gragson is a high ceiling kind of guy, and we really don't know what his potential has shown thus far, but got to realize Penske Racing already has Ty Gibbs and has Kyle Busch. So adding Noah Gragson to that list adds another young, high-potential talent, and it really does help their back end of things. Now, that being said, Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson as teammates would be hilarious. I would love to be a fly on the wall in those meetings, but that's not why we did the draft that way. We don't factor any of that, and we just factored in if you're a team and you're looking at all the drivers left on the board, who you picking, and I thought the two-team picking Noah Gragson would be a good solution there. So now we move on to pick number 20. Sorry, that's pick 18, 19. Yeah, I think that's pick 20. Yeah, pick 20. So this is going to be pick 20, and their pick is in. With the 20th pick in the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Legacy number 4 team, I can't speak, the Legacy number 43 team selects Michael McDowell. Now, Michael McDowell has shown great flashes with the 34. They have had horrible luck this year, but he has a 2-time winner in the NASCAR Cup Series and has shown great speed on the road courses, so has shown that potential to get in the playoffs. Now, that being said, we haven't seen high-end potential. However, if this is Legacy's first pick, I think that's not a bad option to have a guy that has the experience, has been around the block, knows the car, and has shown pretty good flashes in the car, but at the same time, not reaching too high on a high ceiling, but a low or a really low floor guy where you don't know what you're getting. You really know what you're getting with Michael McDowell, so you know you're not going to take your team completely down to the gutter. All right, so moving on to pick number 21. And by the way, the pick is in. With the 21st pick in the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Spire, number 77, selects Chase Briscoe. Now, Chase Briscoe is a very solid driver. I think he's the best well-rounded driver at Stewart-Haas. He probably has the lower ceiling on ovals, but a much higher ceiling on the road courses, has shown good car control, that kind of thing. And Spire, this being their first pick, they really can't take a chance on a guy who has a very low floor. Chase Briscoe has a higher floor. We know where he is. We know he's a good road course racer. He's a solid oval racer. He can win on probably almost any type of track. We haven't seen him win a super speedway in Xfinity, but we know that this guy can handle a race car, and he's very good at finishing the races. He doesn't tear his car up a bunch of times, and that's what Spire's going to need because they're picking this late in the draft, so they're going to have that type of performance. I think Chase Briscoe's a good captain for their flagship car, which would be the 77 at this point, at pick number 21. Now pick number 22, the pick is in. With the 22nd pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Stewart-Haas number 10 selects Bubba Wallace. So Bubba Wallace, a 2-time Cup winner, and has shown good flashes of speed, has shown issues, to say the least, on road courses, not been his strongest suit in any stretch, but that is a good or an okay sign. Chris Buescher has been very solid. The information they can pass back and forth, they are actually previous teammates at RFK, but I think that's a good spot for him. I do think the two wins are good, but with the lack of consistency on all types of tracks, that does put him a little lower than guys like McDowell and Briscoe. And as far as the high ceiling, I mean, he's in a good car, and we've got 2 wins so far. Tyler Reddick has been in that car for 2 years, and he has 4. So that being said, that's kind of a thing. I think he has 3 maybe, but his teammates have won more races than him in the same equipment. So I don't think we can have the argument that Bubba's ceiling is a Cup champion. I think we have to argue his Cup ceiling is a top 8, a round of 8. If he gets to a round of 4, he could get there. Maybe a round of 4 appearance. But I think realistically, a round of 8 would be a very good season for Bubba Wallace. And that's probably one of his higher peaks because, like I said, not consistent on all types of tracks or finishing races. He has been very good this year, so that's not saying he can't get better. But I mean, we are talking a guy that's been in the series now for like 6 or 7 years, so he's been around. So we can't call him like the same potential as say a guy like Noah Gragson, or Carson Host, or those rookies that have those higher potentials. Anyway, that's going to move us on to pick number 23 and the 42 car, and their pick is in. With the 23rd pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Legacy 42 car selects Austin Dillon. So Austin Dillon is a multi-time Cup winner. He also has won on multiple types of tracks, not road courses specifically. But don't worry, you've got Michael McDowell. He can win the road courses. And so, very solid driver. I know a lot of people like to give him crap because he does race for his grandpa and say it's, the silver spoon thing, but he is a nationwide nationwide at the time, but he is a nationwide champion. I believe he's also a Truck Series champion. Won in both of those series. Even if he races down a series, he shows good speed. I think it's unfair to peg him as a silver spoon only guy because I do think he's very solid. He does have more wins than everybody on the column ahead of him, all the way up till you get to Brad Keselowski. The problem just comes with how he's won those races, whether it be fuel mileage, wrecking the leader, the whole field crashing at Daytona. Just kind of some weird ways that he has found ways to win races. But at the end of the day, he's won them. He does have the trophies. And so, good selection for Legacy, judging by who was left on the board. And that's a good option to have a well-balanced team for them. So that moves on to pick 25. The pick is in. With the 25th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Stewart-Haas number 4 selects Corey Heim. Now, Corey Heim is a very high ceiling, very low floor. We have no idea what he's going to be. He's made 1 Cup Series start, looked solid, took care of the car, but we have no idea. We've seen great flashes so far in the Truck Series. That being said, that same crew chief that he has won with Austin Hill in the Truck Series, has won with Brett Moffitt in the Truck Series, so we do have a good quality crew chief down there. But that being said, we really aren't sure what he does or doesn't have, but with that 1 Cup start showing that, okay, he can take care of himself and keep stuff in order, that does make it a good, easy 3rd selection for Stewart-Haas. You are picking a high ceiling guy that you really have a lot of question marks on, but that's all right because you've already pegged in a couple solid guys ahead of him, so you're kind of filling out the back of your roster with some high potential. All right, moving on to pick 26. The pick is in for that 31 car. With the 26th pick in the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Colleague 31 car selects Parker Kligerman. Now, Parker Kligerman is a very solid driver. He makes everything he gets in go a little bit faster than it did before. He has no wins in the Xfinity Series thus far. I think he's going to get one. And he has shown some very aggressive behaviors, which is going to be needed in the next-gen car. That being said, unfortunately, there is some chances of getting wrecked and getting into some of those skirmishes. But at the end of the day, I think Parker is a very solid driver on these lists. And if you're talking about a cornerstone guy you want to start with, Parker's going to be a good option because he's shown that he can get in a car that doesn't have any other teammates with him to help and make it go fast. And that's who you want to have the guy to build your notebook around. And so Parker to the 31 seems like a pretty good option for Colleague, judging by just his performance and his ability to make a car that maybe isn't as fast go a little bit faster. That moves us on to pick number, I believe that's 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 30, 29, 28, 27, 26. 26, that was pick 25, sorry. With the 26th pick, it'll be the 38 car. The pick is in, by the way. With the 26th pick in the 2024 NASCAR Draft, Front Row Motorsports number 38 selects Brett Moffitt. Now, I know. Obviously, there's a little bit of homerism. However, I went back and looked at some stats because I was looking at other guys that would potentially fill this role. Other guys that have been in the Cup Series or in the Truck Series or in the Xfinity Series and things like that. Now, a lot of these guys, say like a Justin Allgaier and that, they've got wins in the Xfinity Series. However, they've been in there for a lot of starts. Brett has 117 starts in Xfinity, no wins. He's never raced with any good teams. I say good teams, teams that have actually won races. With our Motorsports, AM Racing, like none of them had won races. That being said, in the Truck Series, he has 13 wins. He only has 93 starts. He literally hasn't even hit his 100th truck start yet. And he's got 13 wins. That's over 10% win percentage in the Truck Series. And he raced full-time for multiple seasons, 3 straight round of 4 appearances before getting let go from his ride. So sponsorship has been the #1 killer. Results are not the issue. And I think that's a great option for the front row team to build around for a good starter series where, hey, I think we've got a low floor. We've established everything he's gotten in gets faster. Every time he gets out of something, it gets slower. Where's AM this year? Where was GMS the year he left? Where was every team once he left it? It sunk a little bit. Not saying they crashed and burned to the ground, but they sunk a little bit. And so that being said, I think that's a good option for front row for a starting cornerstone kind of guy to go with. He's picked later on in the draft, and you've still got another teammate to pick from later on, but I think that's a good option that gives you the potential to actually improve the team, especially over the 3-year window. So maybe not as good right away with no experience in the next gen thus far, but I think the long-term success could be there. Now moving on to pick number 27. So the 27th pick goes to there, and their pick is in, by the way. With the 27th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the JTG number 47 selects Austin Hill. Now, Austin Hill is a little bit more controlled version of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Very good super speedway racer, and really that's probably the strongest suit he's got. But the biggest thing is he does a much better job of bringing the car home. So that's the difference, is Ricky has had a lot of issues with bringing cars home. He's got the nickname Wrecky Stenhouse for a reason. He wrecks a lot of race cars, and that's not necessarily what you want to build around. Now, does Austin Hill have the highest ceiling when it comes to the standard ovals? No. However, can he win a plate race and get you in? You bet, and he's done a good job of it thus far. So it's a good pick for the 47. They're kind of going all in on winning in to get in the playoffs, but at the same time, they're not having to deal with necessarily the high budget of a lot of wrecked race cars. So that'll move us to pick number, I believe it's 20, let's see, 26, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Yeah, 28. So now we're on to the 28th pick, which belongs to the 41 Stewart-Haas car, and their pick is in. With the 28th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Stewart-Haas number 41 selects Chandler Smith. Now, Chandler Smith is a high ceiling, not sure really where his floor is kind of guy, but that's okay. This is the 4th pick for Stewart-Haas. They can put a little bit more of a developmental guy behind there. They already have Corey Heim, so they're kind of reaching on a future build. They have a lot of younger guys, not dealing with anyone super old. Chris Buescher started about 2016, so we're not talking anybody that's like too old on the team, but at the same time, getting a couple of young guns in there to really help and potentially push this thing, especially a guy like Chandler who has won in both trucks and Xfinity consistently in whichever car he's gotten into, so that has helped. But yeah, I think that's a good solid pick for 28 on the board. You're picking for the future, but at the same time, it is the 4th car on the roster, so you have a little bit more flexibility to aim for, shoot for the stars if you want to. That moves us on to pick number 29, and their pick is in. With the 29th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the front row Motorsports number 34 selects Justin Haley. Now, Justin Haley is a guy I probably would not have drafted just a couple years ago. I thought he was a lot more lucky than good, but seeing what he's done with the Rick Ware car, keeping it clean, finishing the races, all those types of things, which the 34 car hasn't done this year. They keep finding trouble wherever Michael can find it, and it's not even Michael's fault. Sometimes it's just mechanical issues, but bringing it home is the #1 factor. And a good partner to Brett Moffitt, because you've got a little bit more age on Brett, and then you've got Justin Haley, who does have wins on all 3 levels. So there is kind of a good balance between the two as far as both of them having a shot to kind of improve, especially over a 3-year window. I think that's the best selection, at least that we have out there. They don't need to shoot for the stars because they still only have 2 cars, so they can't just have one of them be a total shot in the dark. They're going to have to make sure there's a guarantee of at least decent results. I think Justin Haley's done a good job of proving he can do that. Moving on to pick number, I believe, is that 30? Yes, pick 30. So moving on to pick number 30, the Spire number 7, their pick is in. With the 30th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Spire Motorsports number 7 selects Justin Allgaier. Now, Justin Allgaier is a guy that has shown good, very solid consistency, finishing races and whatnot, and winning races at the Xfinity level. He's never really had a true golden opportunity in Cup, so we really don't know exactly what he's got, but this next-gen car has seemed to be a good equalizer, and the racecraft is definitely there. The other thing is, with them already having Chase Briscoe, I think Justin Allgaier is a good match to that. Not necessarily on the road course success, although he has run well there. A very well-rounded, solid driver that will get finishes and hopefully help get this car out of the bottom of this charter stuff and get him up into that top 20, top 25. But yeah, that'll be their 30th pick. Now on to pick 31, the number 16 Kaulig racing car. Their pick is in. With the 31st pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the number 16 team selects Shane Van Gisbergen. Now, SVG, as we call him, because we can't say his name for some reason, although I think I said it right, a good option to partner with Parker Kligerman. Now, Parker is very solid road racer. SVG, expert road racer. Literally won in his first Cup start. I watched him run at Indianapolis. Kind of, okay, let's see how he follows it up. Pretty solid. I'm not going to lie. This guy can run road courses. So a good option to have a very good road course program for Kaulig. They have Parker to run the ovals. SVG is a high ceiling kind of guy. You're not guaranteed a playoff spot without a win this year, but he's got a shot to get them. So you do have that really high ceiling immediately. But what I'm betting on is, and Kaulig would be betting on, is next year, and especially the year after, we think this guy will round out into a very good race car driver, and he may be a top 10 kind of guy by then. And so they're betting a little bit more on the third year necessarily of this, situation than the first year. But a very high ceiling, very high potential, but just not a very unknown, at least for the first year. So moving on to pick number 32. Pick 32, going to be the Childress number 3. Their pick is in. With the 32nd pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Childress number 3 selects Sam Mayer. Now, Sam Mayer is a guy that we've seen win races. He has shown good strides over the last 2 years, specifically. Really, shown that he can close a race out and get the job done, especially in a tight race. There's a lot of races where it's a very tight battle at the end, and he seems to have the clutch gene to get the lap time down and get the lead and get away and go win. And so Sam Mayer, he just won a few weeks ago at Texas in a thriller. And so I think that's a good partner, especially if you're going to add him to Ross Chastain. Ross is going to get the aggression level up. He's going to make sure the car is fast. And Sam Mayer, that's a guy that he could learn from. Very timid, I would say, the first few years. Kind of wrecked a lot of cars trying to be a little maybe too soft and not getting after it. Ross will make sure he gets after it. So I think that's a good pairing for teammates. But I think that's actually a good spot for him to land, especially for the 32nd overall pick. I think Sam Mayer is a high ceiling guy. We're not really sure where he's at right now, but it's the second Richard Childress car, so they have a little bit of leeway there to play with, especially with it running this poorly in points currently. So moving on to pick number 33, and that'll be the Wood Brothers car, and their pick is in. With the 33rd pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Wood Brothers 21 selects Matt DiBenedetto. Now, I know everybody's going to say, wait a minute, this is a little deja vu. It might be. However, I would argue at this point, they've learned their lesson, because that 21 car has been not just bad, it's been bad. Okay, they are running 33rd in points. Not 30th, not 28th, not 29th, 33rd. Okay, this next-gen car is supposed to equalize things. Oh, no, it got worse. It got much worse. And I think at this point, Wood Brothers would have to say, wait a minute, this car, when the other guy was in it just a few years ago, was a playoff car. Not was near the playoffs, was in the playoffs in 2020. Was right on the cusp of the playoffs, I believe, in 2021. This guy is solid. He has no wins in the top 2 series. He does have a win in the truck series at Talladega. Made that 25 truck. We see what that 25 truck did after he got out of it. Dropped anchor. To the back it goes. The fact is, when Matt gets in a car, it goes faster. He just recently, I believe, signed a full-time ride with the number 38 car. Had a 5-race tryout. They said, We love what we see. Put him in there. And now he's full-time. So he's proven the guy can drive. This was never a question. Politics aside, the guy can drive. We know that. Is he a Cup champion potential? No. But is he a guy that has the potential to land on the playoff board and make the top 16? Absolutely. And that's a much bigger jump than where they're sitting right now, which is 33rd in points. So I think as much as that's going to look like a, funny pick, I think that's a legit spot that if you're a solo team that far down in the field, that's the kind of guy to stabilize your organization. The same logic as picking the offensive tackle in the first round after whiffing on 30 quarterbacks. You know what? Maybe let's make the line good, and then anyone back there has a shot. And that's what the Wood brothers are going to do. They're going to draft smart instead of risking it all. Now, moving on to the 34th pick, which is the first of Rick Ware's cars, the 15 car, and their pick is in. With the 34th pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Rick Ware 15 selects Grant Enfinger. Now, Grant Enfinger is a guy that I believe truly deserves a shot. I think everything he's been in the Truck Series, he's ran really, really well. He's very good at being aggressive and getting what the car will take or will give him. And I think with the Truck Series showing potential against the Cup cars, I want to see a guy like Grant get a shot in a Cup car. It's a little bit of an unknown. They don't know what they're going to get for it. However, they're like 2 spots from the bottom. Go for it. Go for a risk. If he turns out to be a race winner, it looks like, stealing Aaron Rodgers at the bottom of the draft. Same type of thing. We don't know what Grant Enfinger could do because he's never had the shot. Now, I'm just curious to see what he can do. We saw him once at a road course. Not a great spot to start on your debut, but I want to give him a shot, and I think a good spot is the 15 car. There's a lot of other guys out there, but they don't have the consistency that Grant does. There's guys like Ben Rhodes, Christian Eckes, Nick Sanchez, Matt Crafton, a little bit maybe less potential, Ty Majeski, Zane Smith, just a lot of unknowns. I would say Ty Majeski's the closest, but Grant has a little bit more pedigree thus far. So I'm going to put Grant Enfinger in that spot. Moving on to pick 35, that's another Rick Ware car, and their pick is in. With the 35th pick in the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Rick Ware number 51 selects John Hunter Nemechek. Now, John Hunter Nemechek is the definition of checkers or wreckers so far this year. He's getting to the checkered flag with a good finish, or he's on the record, or he's in the wall. And sometimes it's both. He's in the wall and finish as well. So if he could just stop hitting stuff, he's got potential. Now, this is kind of a high ceiling type of pick. They're aiming at what he can do. But at the same time, John Hunter can, we've seen that he can do it. So it's not as much of an unknown of can he have speed. Oh, he can have the speed. We know it's possible. The question is, will he finish? And he's done an okay job of that at times, but there's also times where he hasn't. I think Grant Enfinger would be a good balance to that because Grant does do a good job of finishing. And so I think that would be a good match between the two of them to help Rick Ware go from 35th and 34th to maybe 25th and 24th to help him get up the chart a little bit. But yeah, he'll pick up that 34th spot. Now, before we move on to our final pick in the NASCAR Draft, I want to shout out some honorable mentions and basically explain why they didn't make the cut. The first of which is going to be Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I mentioned before, he's a multi-time winner. He's a Daytona 500 champion. But at the end of the day, he tears up a lot of race cars, and all of his wins are super speedway wins, which means he has been able to win on super speedways. But that being said, it really is kind of a crapshoot, and the question is, do you want to put all your eggs in that basket? By the time you get down the list far enough, you kind of want to shoot for a high potential guy. Say, once we got to the 10 car over there with Bubba Wallace in it, once you got past that, you're either looking for consistency or high-end talent. And Ricky is kind of we know where his talent is, and we know he wrecks a lot of cars, and so that really, really hurt him. If he finished more of the races, the raw speed is there for him to be in a top 35. He just doesn't finish enough races. Dover this week was a perfect example. Just a silly mistake running into the 4 cost him a top 10 day. He was running top 10, and it's gone because of that. And that's the type of thing that kept him out of that top 36, I guess. Another guy on that list, or on the list that I just mentioned, a guy that actually is in the playoffs this year for the Cup Series is Daniel Suarez. And it has mostly to do with he's got 2 wins in his entire career, and that's not like the worst thing in the world. However, we know where the ceiling is. Every team he's ever been with, he is outrun by teammates almost every time. He is the slowest of his teammates, if not second slowest. So we haven't seen the high end where he outperforms the other guys in the same equipment as him. And then on top of that, Atlanta was, I don't want to say a fluke, because it's not a fluke. He ran in there and won the race. But Atlanta is a drafting track. Sonoma, they couldn't pass. So you factor those two in, it's like, how consistently can you expect to make the playoffs? Now, he's done it 2 out of 3 years, so I could be very wrong in 2 years. However, what I've seen thus far, track record-wise, through Joe Gibbs, through Stuart Haas, and then through Trackhouse, is I think a lot of these other guys have the potential to be worth risking over a guy with 2 wins that kind of needs everything to go right. Other guys that I passed over, Cole Custer, Xfinity champion from last year, won a bunch of races. Kind of the same thing. We know where the ceiling is. We know where the floor is, and it's worth either shooting for the stars or other guys had higher floors, and so they weren't. Custer wasn't worth the risk. Same with a guy like Ben Rhodes. You know, we don't know. He could be pretty good, but we also know he, too, can get into a lot of fender benders and tear up a lot of stuff. Has a little bit of that judgment thing where sometimes he puts his head on the floorboard and runs into some stuff that he shouldn't. And so there's a lot of guys like that. Another guy that I will say probably, arguably, could be in the top 36, Ryan Preece, another notable that didn't make the list. And Ryan Preece is just, I don't know. I really don't. He's won 2 truck races. He's won, I think, 2 or 3 Xfinity races with Joe Gibbs. But everybody wins with Joe Gibbs. And everybody won in the truck series with the 17. So I don't really know what he does or doesn't have. I do think he has the potential to be not just a top 36 guy, a top 25, not even top 25, top 20, top 15 type guy. But right now, it's just a giant question mark. And we have enough years now with all the different series that I'm kind of like unsure what do we have with Ryan Preece. I saw him win a race at Iowa, so I know he's got potential. But right now, we're just looking at a lot of unrealized gains, and I don't know what we've got. And I hate to say it, but he's a guy that would benefit from running 6 Xfinity races and kicking butt for those 6 races, because it would show that, hey, by the way, I can drive, because his Cup record has not shown that so far. Other guys, Corey LaJoie, Austin Cindric, Todd Gilliland, Harrison Burton, Ty Dillon, need I say more? Those guys, just, again, not the top end that we need. They all have successes in different ranks, but they don't outrank the potential or the consistency of the guys ahead of them. Consistency and potential are the 2 things that got a lot of these guys drafted. They just didn't have those 2 elements. So anyway, that should pretty much run through those. There's a bunch of truck guys in there, obviously high potential guys, but we're just not sure yet. They got to give guys like Raja Caruth and Taylor Gray a little bit more time. I think both of those have very high potential, but they're just too young. I don't think 3 years would be enough time for them to be up to speed in the Cup Series. Guys like Sammy Smith, very unsure. Sheldon Creed hasn't won a race, and I don't know what to make of that. Josh Berry is the biggest one, and the biggest factor there has to be with, got outrun for the most part by his Junior Motorsports teammates. Now, he does have wins in Junior Motorsports, so that's not a knock, but if you look at that list of who you would replace a fairly young, inexperienced Josh Berry with when it comes to Cup experience, and the ceiling that we would expect, I mean, I would put him in the 30th or lower position. So again, a guy that could be drafted just didn't make the cut today when I was making it. All right, anyway, now that we have stepped through the last of the notable mentions, again, there's a bunch of other ones in there, but we're going to move on to our 36th and final draft pick. Cue the music. With the 36th and final pick of the 2024 NASCAR Draft, the Spire Motorsports number 71 selects Zane Smith. So I said that there wouldn't be any more number matching until the very last pick, I guess. And that's just because Zane Smith, champion of the Truck Series, we've seen the potential last year when he ran with the 36 car or the 38 car. He showed the potential. We saw the speed. Obviously, a very miserable start to the season this year. However, he's actually basically being bailed out right now by Noah Gragson, who also had a very miserable season last year. Comes back this year with the 10, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe he can drive. And so very similar Zane Smith. I think he's just needs to get some luck on his side. Go, kill a leprechaun, whatever he's got to do. I don't know. But, get some luck on your side, because Zane, I think, has the ability. He's gotten caught up in a lot of messes this year. But it's worth the final pick for Spire to have that high upside guy. I think that's a good spot for him. And he is going to pick up the 36th and final pick of the NASCAR Draft. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up my 2024 NASCAR Draft for the 36 chartered NASCAR team. Get that fly out of here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below about all of the picks, top to bottom, the ones you disagree with the most, the ones you disagree with the least, which ones you think are my best picks. And yeah, let's have the comments go and have some fun. I think we can have a lot of fun down there in the comments about all these different draft picks and guys that I snubbed. Who's on my snub list? But anyway, guys, that'll wrap up the video. I hope you enjoyed the draft. I'm in Kansas this weekend, so no streams or anything, so I made you this instead. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. This has been Race Craze. We'll see you in the next one.